Yeah, so I'm Matthew Engelke. I'm 5'10", and right now I'm floating between 198, 203. It depends on the day and how well I am doing with my water for the day. Obviously, the days that I hit the gallon, I'm closer to 205, and the days that I just for whatever reason I'm not getting that water in, it happens. When your focus is work, sometimes things like that fall by the wayside. But yeah, so currently we are at the Edge in Rochester Hills. Since the last time we shot a video, I've gotten a new job, new position. I work for the Edge right now, and I'm actually going to be working at our Sterling Heights location, which is not open just yet. So while we're in the process of getting it open, I'm working as a membership advisor, helping people find a good fit for themselves with our gym. But when we open, I will be their first personal trainer. Then on top of that, I do a lot of social media for them right now. It's a lot of fun. We get to be creative and have a team of other fellow employees, co-workers we have a good time. So it's a nice, warm environment, which really cultivates being creative and helping people. So today I focused on back and abs. I did a lot more back than abs, but it's been my experience, as long as you're doing your compound lifts properly, you're getting your ab workout in anyway. I mean, shoot, even doing a lat pull down, I'm flexing and holding my abs in place to keep myself from rising off the seat. So today, as a warm-up for my back, I actually started off with deadlifts. I know a lot of people will do working sets on their back day with deadlifts. However, I like to focus more on the upper part of my lats and my teres major, teres minor. So that's those muscles kind of up in the armpits, around more towards the shoulder area, right underneath the shoulder. And I also like to focus a little bit more on my mid traps. My upper traps, they tend to do pretty well putting on size. So it's more across the middle of my back, where I focus on really trying to put in width and depth. So with that, I used the deadlifts to get myself warmed up so that I could do dead stop rows. It's a lift I don't do often, but I like it because it allows me to add a lot of intensity into my workout. In terms of my back lifts, excluding deadlift, it's the heaviest lift that I'm going to do. I had a working set of 315. I think I did 7 to 8 reps on that, which, obviously there are plenty of people that can go heavier, but for me, that's good for getting the stress on my skeleton and really encouraging my body to get that growth hormone output. So did a few sets on that. Then we moved over to, I did the pull downs and the front pull downs, straight arm. And this is a situation where, because so much of back day, it's a lot of pulling motion, that the biceps get a lot of work. I like to, towards the beginning of the workout, do an exercise that engages, my back, like my lats and my teres major, teres minor, but also more so with the triceps, and that's what I'm getting with those pull downs and the front pull downs. My arms are extended, so I'm not really doing much pulling with my bicep. So I did 4 sets on that, 4 sets of 12, and that was still kind of, it was essentially another warm-up, because I don't do terribly heavy. It's just enough to really, feel that I'm getting some work in those muscles before I switched over to, I did underhand grip. Let me check my notes here. Underhand grip, lat pull down. Yep, I did a neutral width with an underhand grip, and I did, I believe, 4 sets of 12 on that. And I focus more on pulling my elbows back into place. For a long time, I really just focused on intensity with my back day, and I started getting very bicep heavy. And so one of my trainer friends was watching me about a month and a half ago now, and we kind of made some adjustments to my back day. Dropped a lot of weight, but I'm getting a lot better results, better pump, better growth now that I'm doing lower weight, but really focusing on pulling my elbows back regardless of whatever back movement I'm focusing on at the time. After I did my underhand grip lat pull downs, I switched over, we went over to the bent over rows, so back to rowing. And with these, when you watch, I have a bit of a pause in there, and that's to really focus on the back, trying to keep all of the exercise in the back. So the biceps, they're getting a little bit of work, but again, because of that pause with my elbows back, it's really putting a lot of focus on the back. After my bent over rows with the pause, we went over and did seated high row, kind of seated. If you watch the video, you can see where he panned down a little bit. You can see that I'm actually kind of standing and leaning forward. So this leaning forward and kind of having more of a standing position really forces me to maintain the proper posture for this lift. So if I'm seated, I can cheat a little bit more, lean back and kind of use my erector spinae and some other parts of my back, and maybe even a little bit of my glutes to get that weight. Whereas when I'm leaning forward, all of that is eliminated. So I drop, again, this is another one of those where I dropped the weight and really focused on a slow, controlled movement with a squeeze at the peak of the lift. So when my elbows are all the way back, it's more focused on my back. I keep losing my notes here. Then after the seated high rows, I finished up with close grip lat pull downs, and I did really high reps. I did two sets of 40. Now I maintain a good, a good, I guess, rhythm until I get between 18 to 20 reps. At that point, then I allow myself a little bit of a pause. You'll see me either stop with my arms extended, take a breather, or I'll stand all the way up to take the tension off my muscles, and then continue, because I've found that my back tends to have a pretty good bit of fuel in the tank. So at the end of a set, within seconds, I've got my energy back. So, continuing to work through after I've kind of given out for a set, that really helps me to force my back to respond, and really takes all that last little bit. Anything that was left from the workout is kind of taken out. Now, with back day here, I did add in abs. I don't do abs very often. It's once every other week. I know some people like to do abs all the time. I just found that I don't really need to do them that often. But for back day, I like it doing hanging knee raises and leg raises, because the hanging position, I'm stretching out the back that I just exercised. So that's kind of a bonus. But on top of it, it really forces you to maintain control in your core when you're hanging. So I started off just doing knee raises, and I tend to do a higher reps for knee raises because when your legs are extended, there's a lot more challenge involved. But with the knee raises, you can just get a lot more repetitions out and really focus on those lower abs. After the hanging knee raises, then we switched over to the hanging leg raises, and this is one where I really slow down and I really focus on the squeeze, and again, focusing on not swinging as little as possible, and bringing my feet up comfortably. In some of them, I'll get up. My feet probably get up to about my eye level, even head level. I don't think that that's really necessary, but I just like to push myself. Then after my hanging leg raises, I followed up with hanging twisting knee raises, and I like these because it allows me to focus more on the obliques. I've always been really happy with my obliques, so I try to maintain those and try to keep a good cuts, separation, and striation in there. And I find that the twisting motion really helps me keep that. Mm-hmm.
Off camera, Matthew, we were talking about like you were discussing biceps and weight transferring to the biceps and like the forearms. In general, what do you think are good things to avoid that for people?
Yeah. So I've found that there are a few lifts, and we talked about this, where squeezing with your hands is a good thing. Like with the bench press, you can really get a lot more strength out of your bench press if you focus on squeezing the bar those last few reps. However, with back day, that can kind of work against you. If you're trying to keep the focus on the back muscles and not really just focusing on moving weight, then that squeeze really starts transferring the energy from your back to your biceps and your forearms. So sure, it's good to get a good forearm and bicep workout in, but that's not where I was focusing today. Leave biceps for bicep day. Forearms, I don't have a day for that. Those just kind of grow as long as I'm doing, chest and bicep. As long as I'm doing those properly, then I don't need a forearm day. But so to avoid some of that transfer, some of the things that I've actually had to get some help with lately. So one of the things I'll do is I'll use wraps or just straps so that I'm really tightening my hands in so that my hands don't have to squeeze hardly at all to really pull the weight. The straps do a lot of the work. And then 2, I just try to keep, just a feather touch with my fingers for any sort of pulling motion where it's a machine. Like, for example, the seated high rows, I'm just barely touching those handles when I'm pulling it down. I mean, I'll catch myself squeezing here and there, and I just have to remind myself, okay, feather grip, focus on bringing those elbows back. And that's the same thing with the lat pull down. You'll see it in my close grip, and you can see it with my underhand grip where, there are a few reps where I'm really squeezing, and then other times towards the end you see me kind of, I realize I'm doing it, and I shift, and my hands kind of lighten up a little bit, and then that allows me to pull a little bit better and get a better squeeze in my back. Other ways to avoid it, I'd say that really is the bulk of it, is just focusing on pulling those elbows back and keeping that the focus of your back day versus just moving the weight. Moving weight feels good, there's no lie. However, dropping weight and really keeping the focus where you want it in terms of muscle shaping and muscle growth, that's going to give you better results.
And forearms, you think just if you're doing movements correctly, you should actually get fatigued just from doing your arm days?
Yeah, I get that from tricep, bicep, and my bench presses. However, I can definitely see the benefit to having a focus on forearm in terms of strengthening and avoiding injury, definitely. However, I've not really needed much of that. I've just, everybody's got their own body mechanics, and mine are just such that that's not as important, I've found. Yeah.
Just genetic thing. What's your diet like now, then?
Oh, my diet since I started working for The Edge has really cleaned up. Since in the last 8 weeks, I haven't eaten any fast food at all, and as it applies to processed foods, I can't say I've had more than maybe $15 worth of processed foods in the last 2 months. I've been doing a lot of meal preps, so the bulk of my carbs are coming from potatoes and breads. I know a lot of people have a problem with gluten, whether it be sensitivity or a small percentage being celiac disease. However, I have not noticed any problems. Some of the things that people complain about, whether it be indigestion or, inflammation and problems with sleep, I haven't experienced any of that.
I know some pros in Michigan where they actually have been hospitalized. I had no idea it was so serious, like straight celiacs.
Oh yeah, celiac disease is not a joke. They can't even handle a few molecules of gluten. Yeah, that's a serious problem. But I'm lucky. I don't fall into that category at all. So most mornings I'm having 2 to 3 bagels. So I guess people that are trying to avoid gluten, they'd hear that and they might freak out a little bit. But you've got your own body. That's one of the beauties of doing this is, being in the industry and focusing on both your exercise and nutrition. You really get to know your body and what your body likes and what it doesn't like. And I get it. Some people like to have rules that are straight across. But I'm more of if it works for you and you're not getting problems, why fight it? So that's where I am with it. But back to the diet. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of my carbs from white potatoes, red potatoes, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, and I'm not doing a lot of rice only because as it applies to meal prep, first of all, rice just isn't very pleasant second day, and it gets even worse third and fourth day. And then on top of it, you're actually, so the way rice is put together, its composition, after it's first prepared, when it cools down, it crystallizes. So there are parts of the rice that you're not digesting. So the farther you are out from when you first prepared the rice, the less of that rice your body's actually able to utilize. So not only is it unpleasant to me because it starts getting crunchy no matter how much you warm it up and with water and everything, it's just not the same. But then on top of it, I'm also not utilizing as much. So to get the same macros, I have to eat more and more, and it's more of an unpleasant, crunchy. Plenty of people have no problem with that. I do. So that's why I'm sticking with potatoes and bread. 2, I'm also eating there are a lot of days where I'm doing a cup of oatmeal in the morning as well. Mornings are usually oatmeal, 2 to 3 bagels, turkey bacon, and then 3 to 5 eggs. I know a lot of vegans out there might hear that and get upset. I like animal foods. That's just the way it is. Now, a lot of the meal prep that I've been doing, I've been baking a lot of fish. Rarely I'll do tilapia just because it's so cheap and it has a high protein content, low saturated fat content. I try to get as much salmon in my diet as possible. So that's usually 3 meals a week I'm having salmon. And then on the days that I'm not having salmon, I've started adding sardines just so I can get those omega-3s from a whole food source. I know a lot of people like to use fish oil to supplement. I've found that anytime, both with research and my personal life, anytime I can get something in a non-supplement form, it just tends to work out better for me. It's more ideal. So then I'm also eating a lot of ground turkey, and eggs. So I'll do things like a cottage pie, but instead of using beef, cottage pie. So in America we call it shepherd's pie, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because shepherds don't herd cows; they herd sheep. We'll cover that a different time. But instead of doing the beef, I'm doing ground turkey. So it's a leaner meat, less saturated fat, pretty good quality protein. So I'll do something like, so it'll be ground turkey with peas, carrots, onions, mushrooms, and then top it off with potatoes, and then usually some kind of cheese. I like to stick to cheeses that have a good protein quality, like Swiss cheese. However, it just doesn't taste as good as cheddar cheese. So I'll deviate from some of my clean rules and go with some of the cheeses that aren't as good for me, but they taste better. I mean, still got to live your life, right? Also doing a lot of chicken breast as well. I've probably got 4 pounds of chicken in my fridge right now waiting for me to eat. Vegetables, so many vegetables every day. In addition to whatever's in my meal prep, I'm also doing about 1.5 cups of carrots every day. So that's part of what I've got, this nice orange glow. I'm sure that is from all the beta carotene that's in my diet. I also eat a lot of spinach, a lot of broccoli, onions, mushrooms. Every morning I'm having about 1 cup of mushrooms with my meals. It's good vitamin D. I tend to get better response from my muscles when I eat clean and get a lot of vegetables in my diet. I've been doing a lot of berries as well. Every day I'm doing about between 1/2 cup to 1 cup of blueberries. And then I'll also finish up with apples. I'll have an orange throughout the day, blackberries, raspberries. Then also most days I'm also getting about a handful to 2 handfuls of nuts. That's either going to be in the form of almonds or in walnuts. Now walnuts I choose because of their high omega-3 content, and almonds I choose because of their high mercury content. Not mercury. Whoa, not mercury. No. What am I trying to say? It also starts with an M. It's escaping me now. Magnesium. That's what I meant. Not mercury. Oh my gosh. Let's edit that out. For their high magnesium content, because that's a divalent cation that athletes tend to be low in. So anytime I can add more of that into my diet, I do. So another thing I'll do to make sure I'm getting plenty of magnesium. Also have a lot of unrefined organic cacao powder. So between 3 and 4 tablespoons a day, and I'm just doing that mixed with hot water. I mean, we're in Michigan, so it's colder and it's that time of the year. So already just having that warm beverage is great for your throat, but the fact that I'm getting it in the cacao, I'm still getting that magnesium, so so I like that. Still doing about 1 gallon of water every day, and because now I work for The Edge, and we're partnered up with a supplement company called DotFit. I've been taking advantage of what they have to offer. So they have one product that's it's essential amino acids, and I'll do 4 scoops of that in every gallon of water. So in terms of the amino acid content, it's not far off from like eating. As long as I get that gallon of water, it's almost like adding an extra 2 steaks into my diet, but it's not adding all the saturated fat and all the indigestion that comes with eating beef. So that's kind of nice. I've been staying pretty consistent with my creatine. I find that as long as I'm getting 3 to 5 grams per day, I'm holding a little bit more weight in my muscles, and I also tend to have greater muscular endurance, just because I like that creatine.
Is there a formula for like body weight, for muscle mass, like how much creatine you
Well, I would say that research suggests that applies more towards when you're if you're, when you're loading. So depending on how you get how you go with your creatine. So there's a few different options. You can do, if you're completely off of creatine, you can do what's called a loading phase for, research suggests 5 days. Someone my size being about 200 pounds, and it's mostly lean weight, I'll have between 20 and 25 grams of creatine during those 5 days that I'm loading. And then I'll use 3 to 5 grams, usually about 5 grams per day, to maintain. Now, research has also shown that you can even miss a day or even 2 as long as that third day you're getting those 5 grams of creatine, because the creatine isn't itself what causes you to have the greater muscular endurance. It encourages a change in gene expression, which takes time. It also takes time to turn that gene expression back off. So if you're missing a day or 2, it's not that big of a deal as long as you kind of load up a little bit more that third day, and then just keep that consistency. And that really makes a difference. It adds another I've found 5 to 10%. Research also shows 5 to 10% of strength. Plus, you will hold a little bit more water in your muscles, but not in your fat cells, which is, again, that's another good thing. So, your muscles will look bigger because, they are bigger as a result.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How about cardio, bud?
Cardio. So every now and then, once every 2 weeks, and this is something I've been bad about. I need to get on it more. The thing is I've been bulking. So when I can't really keep cardio as a part of my regimen when I'm bulking. However, I do between 8 to 10 minutes of cardio when I'm warming up. Some people might say it's not cardio because it's only 8 to 10 minutes. However, back to the research, I know that doing that 4 to 5 times a week, 8 to 10 minutes, I'm hitting more than my minimum amount necessary to keep my heart healthy and to keep my VO2 max up higher. So I'm still getting there. It's just not as intense as some of these endurance athletes. I definitely suffer once you start talking 25, 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, but that's not where my focus is. I'm just trying to put on size right now. So anything that's taking me away from that, I just see as a detriment to me. So.
Well, and you're pretty lean anyway, so you don't. I understand you want to do cardio for health reasons, but if you're trying to put on mass, the more cardio would be.
Yeah, well.
Your metabolism.
Yeah, well, too. So everybody has a limit to how many calories their body is going to burn in terms of fat before it starts taking the calories away from other important metabolic processes. So I'm already burning a lot of calories just with my lifting routine, and then just daily activity. So then if I were to add, serious cardio on top of that, okay, well, now I'm going to start messing up my sleep. Now I'm going to start slowing my gains. So again, like I said, that's something that's just going to get between me and where I want to go. Once I get to the size that I like, then cardio is going to be a much more regular part of my routine. But until I get there, I kind of have to just keep my focus on little cardio, and just, hope that my heart keeps up. So.
What would be your goal weight right now, bud? I noticed, like when you first started, how much did you weigh, like when you first started lifting?
When I first started lifting. So, first started lifting, more like, let's talk about when I first started this real push and have been consistent since then. So I've been consistent since 2009. And at the time I weighed about 144, 150 pounds, and it wasn't entirely solid. And it's been about 10 years. Those first 5-6 years, I put on muscle pretty quickly, pretty easily, which is fairly common. I was early 20s, and then moving up into my late 20s, I was averaging about 5 pounds of muscle a year, which is pretty standard. And I've gone from about 150 to now I'm holding, I can hold pretty well at about 195, 200. So ideally, my plan is to get up to somewhere between 210 and 215. And to be where I hold off season, and then I'm still considering competing. So to hold that 215 is going to be better, so that when I cut down and I'm trying to hold 4 to 5% body fat, I'll still be in that 205 range, which is the upper limit for what I would be considering, which would be classic physique, or at that size too, I could still do men's physique as well. Yeah.
You never get, at least I've never seen you now, like you never get sloppy or crazy, out of shape, or
Yeah. My philosophy, first off, my body prefers to be leaner. Everybody's body has their own preferences, what feels right, what feels healthy to you. It's tough, anytime you fight what your body wants to do naturally, you're going to have, it's obviously going to have some resistance. Your body's going to want to fight back. So my body likes to be lean. However, when I am bulking, if I start seeing myself putting on a little too much fat, I will have a day or two where I kind of slow down and maybe I'll either I'll have a week or two where I have 1 or 2 intermittent fast days. The way I do that is it's modified intermittent fasting. So yeah, so I do modified intermittent fasting. So I'll have a day in the week. During bulking, it's only 1 day per week, but when it's cutting, it's usually 2 days a week. But I'll take 1 day, say a Monday, where I stop eating about 9 p.m. and then I don't start eating again the next day until between 11 and 12. So during that time, there's plenty of science that suggests you're getting a reset of a lot of different things. You're increasing your insulin sensitivity and also increasing your body's ability to put out more growth hormone. So it might seem counterintuitive to have a day where I'm fasting as in a bulking cycle, but if it's not a regular thing, if it's 2 weeks out of an 8-week process, science would suggest I'm increasing my growth hormone, I'm increasing my insulin sensitivity, so it's allowing me to continue that growth. Results, we'll see what the results say. So.
Mm-hmm. You had said also, I just had a question. You have issues with beef digestion, or?
Oh well, I wouldn't say that I have an issue with beef digestion. I will say that for many people, because of its makeup, it tends to be a little bit harder on the digestive system for most people. Well, yeah, most people are going to have a little bit of issue with beef. And part of it depends on how often you're eating the beef. Some of it's based off of your microbiome. Some of it's based off of your genetics. There are a lot of things that come into play. But it's not uncommon for people to have some issues with beef digestion for a lot of reasons, whether it's the proteins or the saturated fats. It's just something that some people have problems with, myself included. If I'm eating massive amounts of it, I'm not going to feel great. Yes, I have seen great results in terms of growth when I'm having a steak before bed. However, it messes with my sleep. So, and then if I'm eating a bunch of beef, now I'm starting to get sluggish. I've got a little more indigestion here throughout the day. So I just kind of don't eat it very often, but I love it. So, yeah.
So I have a kind of weird question. This is my last question for you. But as you added more size, what would be pros, and if any, were there any cons? As you gain more muscle mass, and I know sometimes people say they have issues with joints, but what are your pros and cons to that as you add more size?
Well, it's easy to start off with the cons. So starting off with the cons, just right off the bat, just lost my phone. The way I walk, I had to change because I had so much extra size in my hamstrings that my thighs are farther and farther apart. So as I walk, so that's part of it. So that because I had to change the way I walk, that put pressure in different places on both my hips and on my knees, and then also, yeah, and on my feet. So I'm fine now, but there was about 1.5 years, 2 years when I was starting to really try to get used to that extra size, where I did notice some issues with pain on the outside of my knee, part of my ankle. Now, part of it could have been the way I was lifting, and I have adjusted a lot of things in that time. But the thing I'm doing so much is standing and walking, that I'm fairly confident that's where some of that issue came from. Also, the extra weight on just the weight alone on my knees and my feet, I have noticed just how things, like, for example, I have benign hypermobility, so my feet tend to flatten out when I put weight on them, and the more weight I have, the more flattened out they get, which can cause over a long day, it starts causing spasms inside the arch of my foot. Well, where I don't have an arch. My foot's trying to hold the arch, but just because of the extra weight, it's having a tough time. So I'll feel that, and it feels like a little tickle in my foot. But yeah, just as long as I'm wearing the right shoes, that tends to go away. Pros. I mean, I like the look that I'm getting. I love it. This one, I mean, let's just be real. The bigger a person is, especially a guy, the people treat you differently, and I can't complain about how I'm being treated when I'm larger versus when I was smaller. Maybe it's in my head, but there's definitely a difference in the way I'm treated. So.
And how do you mean by that? Like a respect?
Yeah, I get more respect, especially in the fitness industry. With the build that I have now, you know, I'm essentially a billboard for my services. So people see me and they'll say, okay, yeah, he gets results, because there are plenty of people that know all the right things, do all the right stuff, and still don't get this look. You know, a lot of it, like I said, the physique is 70% nutrition. So being a nutrition scientist, that helps a lot. But yeah, no, having the size and having the look, I am treated differently from a professional standpoint, but then also just from a casual standpoint. I not terribly proud of this, but it is kind of a funny anecdote. I was driving to work one day, and there was someone that just, I guess, had a problem with the fact that I needed to merge, and then decided that they were going to be nasty to me, trying to creep up on me and slow down, speed up, slow down. And turned out we were both parking in the same parking structure. The guy got out of the car all angry in a huff, came at me with purpose. I stepped out of my car, he saw my build, and stopped in his tracks, turned, and went the opposite direction. So, like I said, I'm not trying to say I'm trying to scare people. That is not at all what the goal was. And like I said, maybe I should have been paying closer attention. Maybe I did cut him off. I don't know. But having the size that I have, there was no altercation to speak of. So.
And obviously, like being stronger, and that's a nice benefit.
Oh yeah. It makes most things I need to do easier. Yeah, like, you know, move this ladder. Okay, well I'm still holding stuff in this hand, so I'm just gonna, you know, yeah, things that used to be heavy that required help from people. Now I'm just doing by myself, and that makes life a lot easier. If you're talking about moving, or if you're talking about moving boxes at work or whatever, the functional strength is nice. Yes.
And people you'd like to thank?
Well, as always, I've got to thank my girlfriend, Lily. She is extremely supportive. She's really been helping me stay on track with meal prep. You know, I do the cooking, she does the cleaning, which really helps a lot. You know, that teamwork really makes a big difference. It allows me to fit more into my day. Also, both my mother and my father have been extremely supportive of all of this. And then on top of it, the people here at the Edge have been extremely supportive. You know, my general manager at the Sterling Heights location, Laura, she is nothing but praise, and she's always giving me tips on how to make things work things better, whether that be in terms of leadership, whether that terms of membership advising, personal training. She's offered a lot of advice. And then her husband, who's the general manager here, Eric, he's taught me a lot about how to make people feel good. He walks into a room and makes people feel like $1 million, and that is a quality that I really admire. And so I've had the opportunity to learn, and I really like that. Let's see. Also, one last person here. My assistant general manager over at Sterling Heights has been very supportive. Doing these shoots like this, there's a degree of prep that's involved. I liked, because I want to present a good look for the camera, and as a result, that requires some preparation work leading into it, which can be difficult if you're at a job that is not supportive of that at all. And I have been getting that support, which is really nice. Everybody here has really been, you know, it's almost going out of their way to make sure that, you know, I can take care of what I need to take care of, and that's really nice.
Yeah, and it was very nice. I appreciate them allowing us to come in. It's a beautiful facility, but some gyms aren't about it. Won't allow you to.
Yeah.
And they bent over backwards.
They really did. I mean, even the room we're in right now, because normally we do these interviews, we're just out on the floor or wherever, and it's not a problem, but they were gracious, and they even gave us options as to where he's like, well, where would you like to? Would you want to do it in an office? Do you want to? We ended up choosing the Edge Strong Room. This is a room where personal trainers use for small group training. And we ended up coming in here. I think this is a better look. I don't know if you pan around, but we've got goals and routines on the wall. This room is actually set up for a class right now. We've got the TRX ready to go. We've got exercise balls out, dumbbells. We've got a turf over here on the floor, so people are going to be doing some deadlifts over here. It's a really nice look.
Bud. We'll be catching up later in the year. We'll catch a leg day with you.
Fantastic.